year, almost everybody makes New Year's resolutions. And one of my new things in this new year was starting looking very carefully at Bhagavad Gita, and it's been really nice, and I wanted to share some parts of it with you. So we'll start with the introduction that's found right at the very beginning. You probably all know it. I think I'll just shout. Is that okay? If we really fill up in the back, we'll try again.
Yeah, we can hear you with it.
You can hear me, right? Okay. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadavmayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda all together Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the verse we're going to study today, everybody knows it really well because it's number 1:1. So I think you probably all can chant it really nice and loudly without even having it written or projected anywhere. So let's just all say it together 10 times together. Is there somebody who will count the 10 times for us? one of the young people? Okay, a young person there. Okay, just keep track for us and, let us know when we're getting close. Okay. Dhritarashtra uvacha.
Dhritarashtra uvacha.
No, we're going to do this all together. So that's enough Dhritarashtra. We'll do the rest of it all totally together, okay? Dharma kshetra kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsava mamaka pandavascharva kim akurvata sanjaya. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsava mamaka pandavascharva kim akurvata sanjaya. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsava mamaka pandavascharva kim akurvata sanjaya. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsava mamaka pandavascharva kim akurvata sanjaya. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsava mamaka pandavascharva kim akurvata sanjaya. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsava mamaka pandavascharva kim akurvata sanjaya. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsava mamaka pandavascharva kim akurvata sanjaya. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsava mamaka pandavascharva kim akurvata sanjaya. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsava mamaka pandavascharva kim akurvata sanjaya.
Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsava mamaka pandavascharva kim akurvata sanjaya. That was nice. We're resonating the Sanskrit really beautifully. We're going to jump right into the purport by Srila Prabhupada. The purport starts out, Bhagavad Gita is the widely read theistic science summarized in the Gita Mahatmya, glorification of the Gita. This is Srila Prabhupada's the first thing he says in his translation and purports, his Bhaktivedanta purports on Bhagavad Gita. And so he's telling us what Bhagavad Gita is. You know, at various times he's told us we should study his books from many angles of vision. We should discuss them threadbare. And so I've had the good fortune in this month to actually try to do that with 3 other devotees. And I want to tell you some of the amazing things that came out of it, and maybe suggest that you might like to form tiny groups yourself. Maybe you already have small groups where you're discussing Bhagavad Gita. Because one of the things that happens is different angles of vision. Different people see the same thing a different way, and it's not wrong. It sheds a new light on it, right? For instance, Srila Prabhupada says, Bhagavad Gita is the widely read. Oh, what does that even mean? What does it mean, widely read? Does it mean it's famous? Does it mean there's large sections of the world have it as a book that's important to them? For lots of people could have another, different angle on it from that. Well, widely read, so we think, oh, Bhagavad Gita, it's not obscure. It's actually a famous book. So you could have 4 people in the room, and they could all have a slightly different angle on what widely read might actually indicate, and all of them would be right. Then there's another word there, theistic. What does theistic even mean? Does anybody want to hazard a guess as what this word theistic means, or what it might be the opposite of?
Who believes in God?
Who believes in God. A person who is theistic is someone who believes in God, as opposed to someone who is atheistic. That would be a person who's like, there isn't a God. A in front being opposite. So theistic science can indicate that it's science for people who believe in God. It can also be, that word theistic could also mean it's about God, right? It's about the theo part, like theology and all that. So theistic science could be the science about God, or the science of God. So, looking at it, every single word, like we've only got like 4 words into this sentence, or 5 words, and we're already seeing a lot of things just by looking closely at each word. What about science? What does it mean to say something is a science? Any scientists here? I think there's some engineers here, that's a science. What does it mean that something is a science?
Full of knowledge.
Full of knowledge.
It follows a particular sequence, established, proven sequence.
Established, proven sequence, some
Yeah.
order and logic to it, as opposed to maybe,
Whimsical.
yeah, as opposed to an art which might be different every time, but a science is, you do it the same, you get the same result.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's that about a science. Any other scientists here or artists here that want to say something about the difference between science and art, or science and anything else? What does it mean to, when Prabhupada says this is a science? Any thoughts?
It's methodological.
Methodological, yep, that. Yes,
It's also logical.
logical, yeah.
Which involves body and soul, everything like which has some meaning to it.
Has some practical meaning. Science is supposed to have get some results, right? It's got some, yeah, right. Other scientists here?
It explains the way things work.
Explains the way things work. That is the purpose of science, right? To study the bits of it and find out how it all fits together. So, anything else about science? Srila Prabhupada is here saying that Bhagavad Gita is a widely read theistic science. We know it's like 720 slokas or so, and here we've got like 800 pages. So the next thing he says, it's summarized in the Gita Mahatmya. So a summary could be useful, right? What is a summary? What is the useful thing of a summary?
It's a condensed version.
Condensed version, yeah. Can be a condensed version, and it can the ultimate conclusion, yeah. So if you have the summary, you might not have to read the whole thing. You would get the essence of it from the summary. So he's telling us that the Gita is summarized in the Gita Mahatmya, the glorification of the Gita. So then we go, oh, where is this Gita Mahatmya? And, there's a couple Gita, I know of 2 Gita Mahatmyas, but there's one that Srila Prabhupada put right in the introduction. Have you had a chance ever to study the introduction to Bhagavad Gita? Isn't it amazing? What an amazing essay. It's really a wonderful, wonderful explanation of it all. And at the end of it, page, in this one, 28, it's a long essay. Srila Prabhupada actually has Adi Shankaracharya's, is it okay if I take the cover off for now? He has, he actually quotes the entire 7 verses of the Gita Mahatmya. And he says that the first sloka says, if one studies Bhagavad Gita, one will be freed from all fears in this life, and one's next life will be spiritual.
So, and then he goes on to say, there is also a further advantage. And he quotes the second sloka of the Gita Mahatmya, and he says, if one reads Bhagavad Gita very sincerely and with all seriousness, then by the grace of the Lord, the reactions of his past misdeeds will not act upon him. Okay, that sounds like a science formula, right? You do this and you get that. Yeah. And interestingly, he really, right at that point in the introduction, Srila Prabhupada brings up another verse in Bhagavad Gita. He says, the Lord says very loudly in the last portion of Bhagavad Gita, 1866, Sarvadhamam Parijaja, right? We know that one. What does it mean? Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So again, we have that thing about fear. The Gita Mahatmya says, one will be freed from all fears in this life. And Bhagavad Gita 1866, which is, Prabhupada says that's also a summary of Bhagavad Gita. It says, Krishna says he'll deliver us from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Not such. So it's actually the same, he's saying that this is the same thing. He's saying if Bhagavad Gita 1866, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me, I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. If it's saying that that's a summary of Bhagavad Gita, and he's saying that Gita Mahatmya is a summary of Bhagavad Gita. All you scientists and mathematicians here, if A equals C and B equals C, then A equals B, right? So, we're given a really big, beautiful opening of the doors here. What is involved in surrendering to Krishna? Because, we've known for a long time that the ultimate thing that Arjuna needed to find out at the end of this conversation with Krishna is just abandon all varieties of religion and surrender. Right? How do you surrender? What does surrendering take? And sometimes we think it must be harder and harder vows, less and less alignment with whatever is going on in the material world, lock ourselves away from. What does it mean to surrender? And some of those things might come out for some people that is what surrender is for them. But the A equals C, B equals C, A equals B thing that's going on here is that surrender equals reading Bhagavad Gita very sincerely and with all seriousness. Wow. So that is maybe the main way, definitely our way according to this, but the way it's laid out here, the main way to surrender to Krishna is to read Bhagavad Gita very seriously, and very sincerely and with all seriousness equals surrender. I know I spent a long time in my youth wanting to surrender to God and not having the faintest idea how to do it. Where do you start? What do you do? What does it look like? Even Arjuna asked, somebody like this, how does he walk? What does he look like? What does he say? Somebody that's doing it right. Well, here we're given a very clear, scientific, methodological, something like that, methodological instruction for the science experiment that is going to come to the same result every time. Surrender to Krishna by reading Bhagavad Gita very sincerely and with all seriousness. So there's part of the science explained to us there, and we get that from this word summarized. Bhagavad Gita is the widely read theistic science summarized in the Gita Mahatmya. And so we found out that two summaries of the Gita, just surrender to Krishna and read very sincerely and seriously. Read the Gita. And now the next sentence also keeps on going. There, it says, so there being the Gita Mahatmya, which we just looked at, it says that one should read Bhagavad Gita very scrutinizingly. There's a big word, scrutinizingly. Anybody want to explain what scrutinizingly means? Or even what's the shorter word that it's from? Seriously.
Analyze
Must
it.
definitely be in there.
Analyze it.
Analyzingly, analyze it, yeah.
Investigate.
Investigate. Investigate it. You can, sometimes they say that there should be government scrutiny into this or that, right? How much did we spend for the vaccine app or whatever? That's scrutiny, right? Somebody should scrutinize that. There should be so in-depth analysis, investigation. We should be doing that. One should read the Bhagavad Gita very scrutinizingly with the help of a person who is a devotee of Sri Krishna. Okay, that's half of the second sentence. So we're to do it study Bhagavad Gita very scrutinizingly. We don't have to do it on our own. We can get help. And it even tells us who is the kind of person we can get help from. A person who is a devotee of Sri Krishna. So we know some devotees of Sri Krishna, right? And we know Prabhupada is a devotee of Sri Krishna. We're actually taking help from him by reading the purports. But even it's good to have somebody, it doesn't have to be like a teacher type person. It can be another person that is, a friend on the same level as you. But you study it together and you look at the meanings of the words very scrutinizingly and from all angles, and try to see how deep the meaning goes. It goes really deep. So scrutinizingly with the help of a person. Now, help. It's not a long, hard word, but what does it mean? Help. What could be help in studying Bhagavad Gita? Any ideas of what help could be?
Someone to ask guidance from senior devotee, share reflection.
Okay, because that thing came on, you're going to have to talk louder. Say it again.
Someone to ask questions or share reflections with.
Ask questions, share reflections, bounce back and forth, yeah?
Guidance from senior devotees.
Guidance from senior devotees. This is beautiful. This is perfect because it can be both, right?
And taking the knowledge in disciplic succession.
Taking the knowledge in disciplic succession. So it can be taking knowledge from someone who's got more knowledge. And it can also be exploring it. Oh, that's lovely, lovely. Okay, maybe now we need this. So it's. It quit. Did it quit or did I turn it off? I might have turned it off. There.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can just leave it because it still amplifies.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah, there it is. It's picking it up. Okay, so help can come from someone who knows more than us, and obviously they can guide us. But help can also come from someone who's just doing it with us, even if they're not any better than us in any way, but they're doing it with us. Just like, if you have a heavy object to carry, you could get one person who's a weightlifter and they could carry it, or a whole bunch of people together can also get the same result by each taking a corner or taking a bit. So Srila Prabhupada says we should study Bhagavad Gita very scrutinizingly with the help of a person, and a person who is a devotee of Sri Krishna. And so that indicates to us that this is a theistic science, and it's understood in relationship, right? It's not about a person who has, a person who can help us doesn't necessarily have to be somebody who has memorized a lot of shlokas from a lot of obscure Vedas or anything like that. It needs to be somebody who is in a relationship with Krishna, is a devotee of Sri Krishna. And then that person can help us even if they're not senior. And if they are senior, then obviously there's some help to be got there as well. And then the next thing that really interesting is Srila Prabhupada writes, and try to understand it. And that's so interesting, right? He doesn't say, and understand it. He says, try to understand it. Isn't that interesting? He's not saying you have to immediately get it. He's saying, try. Try works. Even just trying is going to be a good result for us. Try to understand it. So to me, that was like a very loving and opening, just our effort is all that he's asking. Try to understand it without personally motivated interpretations. So personally motivated interpretations. So this is sort of 3 words, personally and motivated and interpretations. What are we to understand from this? Would anybody like to say what the phrase together means to them, or what any one of the words means to them? Anybody want to throw something in there? Personally motivated interpretations.
Like if you have some ulterior motive, like material gain, or if you want to gain someone's favor, but you're not really in it with your heart.
Personally motivated, could be that, couldn't it? Ulterior motive, something else you're hoping to get out of it, other than what the science normally produces. Which is kind of easy to do because it's such a good philosophy that you can win any argument. And then you might start to think you're, pretty powerful or something, because our philosophy is like that, it's got the answers. So then we can start to get a little big-headed about it, and maybe think that we're, so important. So personally motivated could be ulterior motivation. Any other things that personally motivated could be? Thoughts?
Taking an example of a personal experience and see how the principles apply.
Mm-hmm. Could be, yes. Personally, yes. And interpretations, what's one of the things that we know about Prabhupada writing Bhagavad Gita as it is? Why did he write Bhagavad Gita as it is? Were there any other Gitas available at the time?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a lot of them.
There were a lot of them. Why did he feel he had to write this one?
Because I think that one wasn't exactly information whatever Krishna wants to give us. So that's why he wrote it down as it is.
As it is.
For one, Krishna says exactly.
Yes, or maybe those were not in the cyclic succession,
Yeah.
and they had some ulterior.
They did have ulterior motives, didn't they? A lot of them were pushing their own point
Yeah, right,
and using the Gita's popularity
right.
to ride on, to bring their point home. Like people listen to Gita, so let me try to twist Gita a little bit to say what my point is. And yeah, so there would be a personally motivated interpretation, because it's not Gita, it's a change to Gita.
It's like a narration,
Yeah.
Bhagavan says something and they wrote it down something.
Right. Yeah, or there was some very popular spins on Bhagavad Gita were like, well, there never was a Krishna and there never was an Arjuna. This just is a representation of, what people go through in life, and, Arjuna represents, the puzzled jiva, and it's all about, it's not practical and it's not real and it's not historical. It's just about the struggle that we all go through. So that was a common, in fact, I even remember my uncle telling me about that, like in 1960. This is what Bhagavad Gita is, Arjuna, this and that.
But that isn't, that isn't what we actually understand. We actually understand historically Krishna and Arjuna were there. It was Kurukshetra. The amazingly world war was happening, and Krishna was actually trying to be helpful. Arjuna was actually trying to be surrendered, and they were solving the problems that are our problems, but it was real. It wasn't just a metaphor for what people go through in life. So Srila Prabhupada is bringing us as it is, because in its own terms, it actually says, this is what you do, and then you surrender to Krishna if you decide you want to follow this path. It's not that you have a mental concoction of, some metaphor for life. It's an actual science. So there is the danger of personally motivated interpretations, and so that's why we want to study it, to try to understand it with a person who is a devotee of Lord Krishna, not someone who's trying to push their own, I'm going to say concoction, and use the Gita as the fuel for it, or the vehicle to carry their own idea. It's to look at Bhagavad Gita and see what it actually says. So all we've looked at here is 2 sentences. And we've just stopped and looked at most of the words. And as a result, we see that you can really dig deep into this. Srila Prabhupada is choosing his words very carefully to carry this on through generations. And if we take time to look at every word, we can actually, we'll be doing that item. Very scrutinizingly study, sincerely, serious, and that constitutes our surrender. And our surrender, we heard, delivers us from sinful reactions, delivers us from fear. I kind of wanted to give you all a chance to say something now. Any comments or questions or complaints or concerns? Anybody want to say anything? Anything came up for you, or anything you want to share?
Yeah. Imagine devotee using Bhagavad Gita, right? Philosopher using Bhagavad Gita, poet using Bhagavad Gita. That shows how good Bhagavad Gita is. It's poetry. Anybody can use it, although it's meant for devotees only. But anybody from any field can use it and twist it to their meaning. That shows how poetic the Bhagavad Gita is.
That is very true. It has been the basis of many art
For
forms.
many years.
Yes.
Even though you have your own commentary on it, but your proof for your commentary, it's in Bhagavad Gita, whether you're an atheist or a philosopher, a scientist, or devotee. Your proof is in the Gita. That's the poetry of Bhagavad Gita.
Yes. It is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. And how old is it now? And it's inspired so many people. Yeah, it's very beautiful and very poetic and still scientific. Still, it's got, thank you. Very nice. Any other thoughts? Comments? Guru? Do you want a mic? Is there a mic that we can pass around for?
Just the one.
Okay. Oh, it's on the, it doesn't pass around very easily? You have to take the whole thing? Oh, you don't have to take the whole thing, okay, good. It does the whole room?
Yeah.
I think maybe go back to the. No?
Oh, sure.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare
I'm not a big speaker.
It's okay, we're all just friends here, right? We're just the storm has made us a small group.
So Mataji, Bhagavad Gita explains that if we are sincere, Krishna will lead us to the right path. And it also explained if you want to be cheated, you will be cheated. So this is what I know.
Thank you, that's a very good point. If we're sincere, Krishna will send us the help, send us the people to discuss it with, send us the guidance and send us the peers to help.
And if we're not, we might get what we asked for with this cheater. We'll move slowly through the mics. They might take it if you move a little slower. Yes.
Nothing much, but I'm just saying that I heard that even one shloka of Bhagavad Gita can change our life. So if we sincerely even follow one shloka, like with sincerity, that shloka itself will change our life. So that is what I think, that it is true also. And once we read Bhagavad Gita and we try to put it practically, like in last class, we heard that when we do everything for Krishna, like we are sitting for Krishna, when we are walking for Krishna. When we follow each activity for Krishna, then ultimately it will be in our mind all the time. So it's like never forget Krishna, always remember Krishna. So we can always learn from Bhagavad Gita. So it's a manual for a human being.
Very nice.
So,
Operating manual, manufacturer's instructions.
and one becomes more like stronger in Krishna consciousness. It's like base of our Krishna consciousness. One should read it every day, like. So that is what I
Yes.
feel.
Very nice, thank you. Any other comments in that part of the room?
Hare Krishna Mataji. So I was listening to a lecture of one of the great devotees in India. His name is, his holiness Amoghila Prabhu.
Yes.
And in one of his lectures he was saying that, so Bhagavad Gita is widely read, right? How do we quantify that number? So since 1965, ISCKON devotees have distributed 500 million Bhagavad Gita globally.
Wow.
And he also says every 33 seconds there is a Bhagavad Gita being distributed globally, somewhere in any city.
Somewhere in the world.
Somewhere in the world.
Amazing.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And you all have helped with that.
Right. Every 33 seconds Bhagavad Gita, and every 10 seconds there is at least one Prabhupada book which is being distributed.
Wow, very cool. Fantastic. And yeah, I really just want to thank you all too for that, because I know you've done your part in the book distribution, the marathon that just finished. That was very nice. Okay, over here there's maybe some comments.
Anyone else?
This part of the room.
I can say without my.
But can they hear you way back there? I can hear you, but they hear you.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Actually, Gita, every chapter has a lesson. You know, I was hearing the lecture from Nitai Shivani Mataji,
Sorry, say-
Dr. Nitai Shivani Mataji.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So yeah. So she was yesterday. I was listening her lecture. So she was saying like every chapter has a reason. So as far as I know, she was telling from 1 to 18. So as far as I remember that chapter 2, if we read the chapter 2 every sloka very seriously, and we will have a life that without scaring anything, like nobody have to scare. They can live their lives easily, you know, and nothing will happen there in their life, because Lord Krishna is with that person, whoever read the second chapter of Gita. And another one was, I think, 9th chapter. 9th chapter, if we read, and no demand will come to us even in our, dream. So I like that lecture, and I want to write it down, then I can practice it. So basically, the conclusion is Bhagavad Gita. Anything, if we study one, or if we can remember by heart one sloka even, we can go to Vrindavan easily. That's I thought. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Haribol
Very
Mataji.
nice, yes. Yes, it says try to understand. It doesn't even say be perfect at understanding. It says just try.
Yeah.
Yes, and it, like you were saying, so much. One will be freed from all fears in this life. And I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions, Krishna says, do not fear.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
yeah, absolutely.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, VRNDA Prabhu, for the great lecture and your interesting perspective on the first few sentences. I really enjoyed that. And I have a reflection that when you were talking about all of the meaning that was embedded in each word that Srila Prabhupada wrote, I was really thinking about how much of a genius Srila Prabhupada was, and we don't typically see that aspect, or we don't talk about that aspect, because he was very devotional, yes, but he was also very, very intelligent. And that really makes me feel more grateful for having Srila Prabhupada's books in our lives.
Yeah.
And just with the amount of meaning he put in each word, and the fact that he was so merciful upon us to write this down and to send it down through the generations. Because he didn't have to.
No.
Like, there were so many other versions of the Gita, but as you mentioned, the other versions either had ulterior motives or they were mundane scholarly interpretations. Whereas Srila Prabhupada struck the right balance between theism and science. And as you mentioned, theistic science. So this just makes me even more kind of empowered to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books and to talk about his legacy. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji. I heard some of lecture, but I cannot remember who is the saying. But I think Gita is the deep knowledge. It's a very, but I cannot remember all of those. But Prabhupada it makes it easy for us. Every simple thing he help us for our life and our family. So Gita means moksha love. Every time you come, krodh, lobh, moho, matsarya, you have to moksha love to think of that. How can I leave those things? So I think that way, and there is the Sattva, Tamo, Rajo. We have human being. We have everybody born with that. So as Gita make us the peaceful and think about them, how can we reduce of those, and if we are go yoga and thinking of that, we close our eyes and thinking the 10 minutes, 2 minutes, then we'll become down easily, and we can survive and think about the Gita about it. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I'm so glad you brought up about the gunas, because, it's so surprising that,
what we've got here, we've got Arjuna puzzled about his duty. He says, I don't know what to do. My life makes no sense. There's no good way forward. And he says to Krishna, what do you tell me to do? And there's warriors with their weapons lined up, and Krishna spends a big chunk of this 45 minutes explaining how the gunas work, explaining what foods are in which modes, explaining what kind of charity is in which modes. And so we can take from that it's pretty important for us to get a sense of which, the science, which mode, which things are in which modes, which activities are which, and partly so we can move things up to the next higher mode. If things are happening in the mode of passion, if we can switch it up to calm down to a bit of mode of goodness. Or if things are in the mode of ignorance, if we can insert a little passion in there to get at least one mode higher. But to do that, we have to know, we have to be able to see the modes in action when we're observing them. So reading Bhagavad Gita has a very good explanation about the modes. Yeah. So I think I'm sort of running out of time here, right? So
We
there's
have a few minutes. So
okay.
is there anyone that we missed? Any of the kids?
Maybe the kids have a question or
Do you know
something?
them? Any questions?
I have one question, if you,
Hare Krishna Mataji. And unfortunately, I loved Srila Prabhupada. I did not know anything about. I knew I born in Sanatan Dharma, but I grew up with demigods. We used to do everyday puja 2 times, but my mom used to teach Krishna, Hare Krishna. She used to sing 10 times, that's it, in the morning and evening. So I learned that way, and Krishna's 108 names I know by heart now. So, which is, but I did not know what it is, who is Krishna. I had a lots of questions. Actually, who is Krishna? There is a Vishnu, there is a Indra, there is a Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is so many of them, right? So I was asking everywhere, everybody, who is Bhagavan? So I did not know. So that, at the end, maybe God thinks that I wanted to know very badly. So I used to go to ISCKON also, but I saw ISCKON, they are doing so many things, but I was just music and dancing, singing, but I don't know what it is. So all of a sudden now I know I have a very, very good feelings for Prabhupada. I love him, I think he's my father. And I feel every time how he became that serious, his family, you know that, right? So I feel that. So now my question is, why Prabhupada asked us to say everybody Mataji and Prabhuji? Why we do that? When I was saying, because I was offering, because I love Prabhupada, to respect Prabhupada, I was asking somebody to, because this is the platform, right? This is platform, actually, this Prabhupada's platform. So we always say Mataji and Prabhuji. So people, they got mad on me that, no, why should I say Prabhuji and Mataji? Is only for ISCKON. When we go to ISCKON, we will say Prabhuji and Mataji. Other than that, we will say brother and sister. So I was confused, so I thought this is the right time to answer because nobody was asking any question. I'm sorry for that. I want to know about it if you have time. Thank you. Haribol Mataji.
Thank you. Good question. Good question. It actually, there's a whole bunch to unpack in your question. And probably the first thing to unpack is, indeed, when we are trying, these are terms of respect, right? We're trying to respect someone when we call them Mata or Mataji or Prabhu or Prabhuji. We are expressing our respect. So if we really respect them, then we will also respect how they would like to be addressed. So we won't impose our idea of what respect is on them if we are respecting them. And so if they are good friends with us, we can talk about it. How would you like to be addressed? What means respect to you? Because I want to show you my respect. So then you can find out how they would like it, and if you feel that respect for them, then you can do it the way they like. So that's one aspect. If they are, from a cultural background where it isn't respectful to call somebody a mother, then maybe it doesn't mean anything to them to be called a mother. Or if they are from a cultural background where being called brother and sister is lovely, they want that, then do it. Or if they're from a cultural background where being called brother and sister is saying, oh, I don't respect you, you're just my sibling, then don't do it. Do what if you want to respect them, then respect their wishes on it. So that's one part of it. Another part of it is, I don't know if you all know this, but when Srila Prabhupada was interacting with his original disciples, he taught them to call each other Prabhu. He didn't tell that, he told all the men to think of all the ladies, except their wife, as their mother. Think of her as your mother. But in practice, he called them all Prabhu, even his own disciples. So it would be Mother Govinda Prabhu, Mother Vishaka Prabhu. We would have the mother in there. When I first met the devotees, that's how we addressed all the men was, whatever the name was, Krishna Prabhu. Although Krishna Prabhu would call himself Krishna Das. He would never call himself Prabhu, right? So we call ourselves Das or Dasi, call everybody else that is a devotee. And at that time it would be initiated devotees. We wouldn't call Bhaktas Prabhu or Mataji. We would call them, whatever they liked for their background, Mr. or Doctor or, Sir. But we wouldn't call them Prabhu until they took initiation. But then it was everybody, and Srila Prabhupada taught us to all call each other Prabhu, and it was not used to determine gender. It didn't indicate whether a person was in a male body or a female body. It just indicated that as a devotee, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, they were all showing great respect that every other devotee was their master. And then things changed around the year 2000. Actually, things changed a little bit on a small scale when the devotees started going to India in much larger numbers. And the devotees would there would be lovely house programs, say in Calcutta or Delhi, lovely house programs, and the devotees would call their hostess Prabhu. And she'd be very shocked, as you can imagine. For one thing, it's not grammatical, and for another thing, it's not cultural. So this would be an uninitiated, older householder lady, and so Prabhupada told those disciples who were the guests in these families' houses, call the lady Mataji. So, and that would be totally acceptable to that lady, right? So then the idea of Mataji came through, and by the year 2000, somehow or other, the devotees had slipped back into bodily consciousness and gender, and they were using Prabhus to only mean male bodies, and Matajis to mean female bodies, which is not at all the way Prabhupada taught it. However, there are some ladies who don't want to be called Prabhu, either from their background or from their understanding of grammar, which is interesting because Srila Prabhupada obviously knew the word Pravi, right? He obviously knew the female form of the word for master. He never said it. He did not go gender-based on this at all, ever. It was Prabhu. He was so unbodily conscious. It was not about dividing. He kept the girls and the boys separate on